Hello everyone, this is the 8th grade math midterm review sheet, and we're going to start right with the first question, unit 1, solving linear equations. So when you see parentheses, you are going to use distributive property. 2 times x is 2x, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6 equals 2x minus 6. So you might notice that you have the same expression on both sides. And when you have that same expression on both sides of the equal sign, you have infinitely many solutions. So that's what that answer is. Number 2, again, you have distributive property going on right here. This is 2 times x, which is 2x, 2 times 2, which is 4. You bring down the plus x, and then you do 1/3 times 6. And remember, in your calculator, you're just going to put the fraction symbol and then do 1/3. Times 6, and that is 2. So we're going to have 2x, and then you do the fraction symbol again. 1/3 times, that's 1/3 times negative 3. 1/3 times negative 3, you press enter, is negative 1. And you're just taking a look at the left side of the equation here. There are 3 terms on that left side. That means you have to combine like terms. 2x plus 1x is 3x. Bring down the plus 4 equals 2x minus 1. And then you have variables on both sides. You have x's on both sides. You bring the smaller, try to bring the smaller x over to the larger x. Once you do that, you are able to cancel out the 2x and the negative 2x, and 3x minus 2x is x, plus 4 equals negative 1. The only other thing that you need to do is to solve for x, and you do that by subtracting 4 on both sides of the equation, and you get x equals negative 5. And that's number 2. John paid Planet Burger Gym $50 membership fee. So I'm going to highlight $50 membership fee plus the $10 per training session. So it is a plus, right? So you're adding. The total for the month was $440. And all you have to do is write an equation that can be used to determine how many training sessions he took for the month. So we're going to just start with identifying the slope. The rate is $10 per training session. The y-intercept, which is the initial fee, is $50. The initial fee. So with a y-intercept of 10 and a y-intercept of 50 and a slope of 10 and a total of 450, you have all of what you need to create this equation. So it is 10x plus 50, which is the y-intercept, the initial fee, equals 450. Or you can have 50 plus 10x, because addition is commutative, equals 450. You don't have to solve this one, but if you did, you just would have to solve for x, and then the x would represent the amount of training, how many training sessions he took in a month. All right, and number 4, the lines are parallel. So I don't know where that went, and I don't know where that went. So if the lines are parallel, you're talking about parallel lines just like this right here and like this. So A and B are parallel. And they're asking, name a pair of angles that are alternate interior angles. Alternate interior mean across from each other and inside the parallel lines. Interior means inside. So across from each other and inside would be 3 and 6. So angle 3 and 6. The other alternate interior angles, because there are another pair, could be angle 4 and 5. Alternate interior angles. Remember, alternate exterior would be outside and across from each other, like 1 and 8. Outside the parallel lines, 2 and 7, alternate exterior. Based on the figure above, name all the angles that are corresponding angles. Corresponding means the same location. So I'm going to put that down. Same location. So the corresponding angles means that these angles right here are in the same location. So I'm going to circle them in yellow. So angle 1 is in the same location as angle 5 in the bottom. So angle 1 in the top is in the upper left. The angle 5 on the bottom is in the upper left. So angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. 2 is in the upper right and 6 is in the upper right. Those are corresponding angles. Angle 2 and angle 6. They're in the same location. Angle 3 and angle 7 are in the same location. So, angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding. And then finally, angle 4 and angle 8 are in the same location, the lower right, and then lower right of the bottom. Those are all the angles that are corresponding angles. Number 6, what value for the constant h? So they want you to replace h with something, with a number, that would create an infinite many solutions. So an infinitely many solutions means that it would have to be exactly the same on both sides of the equal sign. So this will be a multiple choice. So we're talking about 8x plus 18. So what number can we put in here for h that when you multiply it would be 8x, and then when you multiply it would be 18. So what times 4 would be 8? Obviously 2. 2 times 4 would be 8. So if you put a 2 in here for h, then you would go ahead and distribute. You check it out. You have 8x plus 18, and that equals the 8x plus 18 on the left side. So h equals 2. What is the solution to the equation below? So remember what I told you before about knowing that there are 3 terms on this side right here, and you have to combine like terms to have 2 terms on each side. Then you could switch. Then you could actually go and solve it. 5x plus 2x needs that you should combine that first before anything. So that's 7x plus 10 equals, and then you have to do some work over here. You need to combine like terms. There's no other x, but there's a 6 and a 4. You have a 6 and a 4, that's 10. So it's 7x, bring it down, and then 6 plus 4 is 10. You have the same thing on both sides, same expression on both sides. So this is infinitely many solutions. All right, and that's infinitely many solutions. Same expression on both sides. That means that if you went and like solved it further, you would say minus 7x if you needed to. Minus 7x on both sides, minus 7x. The 7x's would cancel on both sides, and you would get 10 equals 10. And it would still be infinitely many solutions. But you could stop at 7x plus 10 equals 7x plus 10. All right? All right. So the thing is here with this question, it says in the figure below, the measure angle 2 is 4x plus 10. Angle 7 is 2x plus 20. So those things are very important. And then once you do get those expressions for the angle measures, I would like you to put the expression in for angle 2. So angle 2 is 4x plus 10. All right, angle 7 is 2x plus 20. So taking a look at what this is, these are parallel lines cut by a transversal. Look at angle 2. Angle 2 is a large angle. It's a large angle. It's an obtuse angle. Angle 7 is also obtuse. Take a look at the size of angle 2. Size of angle 2, that's the size of angle 2. This is the size of angle 7. So you got to figure, okay, angle 2 and angle 7 itself, these are equal to each other. So if they're equal to each other, then you have to set them equal to each other. So 4x plus 10 equals 2x plus 20. If one angle is obtuse and one angle is acute, then you have supplementary angles, and that means when you add them together, you would set them equal to 180 degrees. You don't have that in this one, but if I move this right here to over here, then you would set it up like 4x plus 10 plus 2x plus 20 equals 180 degrees. So it's either or. Like with these parallel line questions, they're either equal to each other or they're supplementary. They're equal to 180 degrees. If I had them there, then if I had it in 2 and 5, notice that 2 is an obtuse angle, 5 is an acute angle. They're different. That means one obtuse and one acute, when you add them together, in this case, would be supplementary angles. They're 180 degrees. So that's why the 4x plus 10 plus 2x plus 20 equals 180 would be the equation that you would use for that. So I'm just going to get rid of that equation because that is not what it is. I'm going to move this back to 7 because that's where it was. They gave you 2 and 7. So being both obtuse, they're equal to each other. Now all you have to do is solve getting the smaller x over to the larger x. Once that is done, that means one side would cancel, and then 4x minus 2x is 2x. You bring down the plus 10, bring down the equal sign, you bring down the 20. And then you go ahead and subtract to get everything away from where the x is. This is a two-step equation now at that point. And you have 2x equals 10. You divide by 2, and x equals 5. All right, which equation could be used to solve the missing angles? This equation right here. And then solve the equation we did for 5. A lot of times they tell you, they ask you, all right, what's the measure of angle 2? You would go ahead and substitute 4 times 5. The x is 5 plus 10. That's 20 plus 10. So this would be 30, but it doesn't work out anyway. That's what you would do, though. You would substitute. But in this case, you don't have to. That is the answer. Okay, so another long equation. This is very heavy in the algebra section. you do distributive property. Just remember, be careful with the distributive property when you're distributing a negative. The negative is something that causes a lot of problems for people, but just remember, say to yourself, negative 2 times a positive 3x. Negative times a positive is negative. Put it in the calculator if you need to. Negative 2 times positive 5 is negative 10. Plus 10x equals, and then bring everything down, 10x plus 14. Look at both sides of the equation. One side has 3 terms, the other side has 2. So I'm going to pick the side with the 3 terms and realize that I have to combine like terms. Negative 6x plus 10x is 4x. And then minus 10, bring it down. You have 10x plus 14. You then will just get the x's together. Subtract 4x on both sides. The 4x's cancel. You bring the negative 10 down. And this is 6x. 10x minus 4x is 6x plus 14. You subtract 14 on both sides. Trying to get the x alone is what you're trying to do. And then you're going to just go 6x equals negative 24. I'm going to rewrite that up here. And the last thing that you have to do is divide by 6. And then x equals negative 4. And that's your answer. One solution. All right, so Unit 2, angles, triangles, and geometry. One angle of a interior angle triangle measures 47 degrees. The second interior angle measures 76 degrees. What's the measure of the third interior angle? Without a triangle, it might be a little bit difficult, but it's really not that bad. So I'm just going to put a triangle here, like that, and I'll put 47 degrees right here, and I'll put 76 degrees right here, and they want to know what this angle is. So anytime that you have a triangle, you know that you have 3 angles of any in any triangle. You add up the 2 angles. It is 47 plus 76. And just remember, use your calculator, 47 plus 76. And you have 123. Then you take, since a triangle equals 180 degrees, all the interior angles of triangle equal 180 degrees, you just take 180 minus 123. And you get 57 degrees. So what's the measure of the third angle of the triangle? It is 57. A more difficult question is this one, right? So you're just going to have to try to remember that the 2 non-adjacent interior angles is equal to the exterior angle, all right? The 2 non-adjacent interior angles of the triangle is equal to the exterior angle. So the 2 non-adjacent angles, not next to, would be those. So if you add these together, it equals this. The 2 non-adjacent angles equal the exterior angle. So we have 4x plus 2 plus 30 equals 8 plus 6x. It'll always be that, all right? The 2 non-adjacent interior angles is equal to the exterior, right? So now we have 3 terms on this side. We're going to have 4x plus 32. 30 plus 2 is 32. You have 8 plus 6x. And then you go ahead and you get the x's together. I always try to bring the smaller over to the larger, only to work, because I like to work in the positive and not the negative. Sometimes you can't help it, but it is what it is. So 6x minus 4x, notice that that is a positive 2x, and that's what I mean by working in the positive. You subtract 8 on both sides, and you get 24 equals 2x. The 8's cancel. You divide by 2 on both sides, and you get x equals 12. And that one. Okay, so that was not easy. So x equals 12. Let me put that there. Do the following side lengths form a triangle, not a right triangle, a triangle. So the idea is that any two sides that you add together has to be greater than the third side. So we would try like, hey, 4 plus 6, is that greater than 8? And then 6 plus 8, is that greater than 4? So like we're going to always just pick the two smallest sides. And if it's greater than the third side, then it is a triangle. All right. So we're going to take the two smallest sides and just add them. 4 plus 6. Is that greater than 8? So 10 is greater than 8. That means, yes, it is a triangle. Then we're going to go, and by the way, it's A plus B, which are the sides, has to be greater than C. And that's the reason why this is a triangle, because when I took 4 plus 6, it is greater than 8. So now I'm just going to take the two smallest sides again. I'm going to do 12 plus 16. And if that's greater than 30, this is a triangle as well. 12 plus 16 is 28. 28 is not greater than 30. So that's an X. So no. So that is the proof. The two smallest sides has to be greater than the third side. If they are, then that means it's a triangle. If they're not, then it's not a triangle. So take a look at this one, a 15-foot tree. 15-foot tree casts a shadow that is 8 feet long. What's the distance from the tip of the tree to the tip of the shadow? So what they're basically saying, they're giving you this, and they're giving you this, and they want to know what the length of this is. So it is a right triangle. Take a look at it. The opposite of the right angle is the hypotenuse. This is side C. This is side A, and this is side B. A and B are interchangeable, but C is not. C is always opposite the right angle. So you have to use Pythagorean theorem to find any missing side of a right triangle. So Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared. It's an easy formula, equals c squared. And you get that formula on the state exam. So if you see a right triangle and they're asking you to find the missing side of that right triangle, that means you are using Pythagorean theorem. Like I said before, A could be interchanged with B. So I'm just going to put A squared as 15 squared and B squared as 8 squared. C squared is C squared because we're missing it. Wrong calculator. So 15 squared would be 15, and this is how you press the squared button right there, and it's enter. It's 225. So take a look at 225. 8 squared would be 8 times 8. That is 64, but I'll show you anyway. 8 squared, that's 64. And all of that equals c squared. So now we have 225 plus 64. So I'm going to press 225 plus 64, and that's 289. So 289 equals c squared. Now, this is an inverse operation that we don't talk a lot about, but squared, the opposite of squared is square root. The opposite of square root is squared. So when you see squared and you have to figure out the what c is, not c squared, you square root both sides because that is the opposite of what you're seeing. So this is c now, because that cancels the squared and the square root kind of cancel out. And how you do square root of 289, you press this button right here, and you press 289, and you press enter, and it is 17. And it's 17 feet, by the way. So C is 17 feet. All right. So we are giving you this on the review sheet, but we are not going to give this to you on the test. They don't give it to you on the state exam, but this is kind of like what you'll see. It's the measure. They want the measure of the diagonal of the rectangular prism. This is called a rectangular prism. The diagonal is this piece right here. So they want this length. Round your answer to the nearest tenths, right? So the hint, this is the formula. It is D equals square root, and it's very easy, L squared plus W squared plus H squared. If you forget the formula, it does not matter. Just take the three numbers, square them, add them together, and then square root them, right? So what I'm saying is that I don't care what the length is. I'm just going to put it underneath the square root. And you see 8? I'm going to put 8 squared. See the width? 6? I don't care if it's 6 or 8 or whatever it is. And then use each number once. So then you grab your calculator. I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to clear this out. So you put this entire thing inside the calculator. So we're going to press second function. No, we're not going to press second function. I lied. We're going to press square root. And underneath, we're going to go 8 squared plus 6 squared plus 5 squared. We're not going to figure anything out. I'll let the calculator do it. So D equals 11.18. We're rounding to the nearest tenth place. So that means this number here, we're going to round to either a 1 or a 2. And the next number is an 8. So rounded to the nearest tenth place would be 11.2 millimeters. All right, and that is the answer for 14. Number 15, use Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between the 2 points. Take a look at the graph. This is very confusing for a lot of people, but again, it's just Pythagorean theorem. All you have to do is just create the triangle. So I am going to go down, just like rise over run, and across. You have to stay on the grid of the actual graph, and that's a right triangle. You're taking a look. They want to find the distance between these 2 points, which is right here. So this is what they want to find, the distance between the 2 points. So that's what we're trying to find. Now, all you have to do is just count 1, 2, 3. You have to get the side lengths. So that's 3. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4. So it says use the Pythagorean theorem. So you're going to look up the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is c. It's opposite the right angle, right? This is the right angle. So we're going to have a squared, which is, you could put 4 as 3 in. It doesn't matter. But if you put 4 in for a, you have to put 3 in for b. And again, 16, 4 squared is 16. This is 9 equals c squared. this is 25 equals c squared. The opposite of squared is square root. Once you square root it, you get your full answer, c equals 5. That's the distance between those 2 points, and that is it. All right, so here is Unit 3. Unit 3 is just slope and y-intercept. We've been through this a lot. As far as this goes, y equals mx plus b is the format that you need everything in. So the m for this one, what is the slope? It is 5/3. It is the number next to x. The b is -14. And then you answered your question. You're done with that question. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points -7, 4, and 5, 10. So the first thing that you do is label x1, y1, x2, y2. You have the slope formula as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's why it's so important to label, because then you know exactly what to put in its place. So y2, and by the way, you put m equals and you set it up just like this. See these subtraction symbols? That's from the formula itself. So y2 is 10. y1 is 4. x2 is 5. x1 is -7. You see that double negative? That double negative creates a positive. Change it to a positive right there. So in your calculator, you're not going to do this by hand, like and separately. You're just going to press the fraction symbol. You're going to put 10 minus 4 directly in, and you're going to put 5 plus 7 directly into the calculator. Into the calculator. Enter. It is 6/12. So you're not going to put 6/12. You see this arrow? That means you need to press the simplify button. 3/6, you need to press the simplify button. 1/2. So the slope is 1/2, and you are finished with that question. Write an equation of a line that has a slope of 9. Slope is m. M is 9. Y-intercept is b, -8. It needs to be in y equals mx plus b format. And so we have y equals, slope is 9x minus 8. That is the answer. Write the equation of that line, and that is finished. This is it. All right, so we're going to go on to the next question of 9. Okay, it says write an equation that represents the line shown on the coordinate grid. So we have, if they say an equation, you know, or you should know, it is y equals mx plus b. All right, so you have to figure out two things. You have to figure out the slope, and you have to figure out the y-intercept. I look for the y-intercept first, and I see that the y-intercept is right here, so I'm going to put 0 for this one. And I'm going to use these 2 points. I could use the y-intercept that I have and this point right here, or I could use these 2 points, or I could use these 2 points. It doesn't matter. If it's linear, that means the slope is constant, and that means that it doesn't matter which points that you use. You just need 2 points to figure out the slope. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a run and a rise. Rise over run. So just be careful. This counts by 2. So this is 2. It looks like 1, but it's 2. And this looks like 1 as well, but it's 80. Do you see how it goes from 0 to 80? Well, that's 80. So the rise over run is 80/2. And that means this is, by the way, this is miles. 80 miles and 2 hours. So 80 divided by 2 is 40 miles per hour. Right, and that is the answer for that. No, that is not the answer. So it says write the equation in a line. Y equals mx plus b. We have 40 as the slope. Put an x next to it. Actually, yes, put an x next to it. Plus 0, but you don't have to put the plus 0. So this is the answer to the question right here of the equation of this line. By the way, this is known as a direct variation. In a direct variation, the line passes through the origin. All right, so that is a direct variation, or it's called also a proportional relationship. And that's it. Okay, so more difficult, number 20, you find the slope and the y-intercept of the linear function below. It has to be in this format. If it is not in that format, that means you cannot solve for anything, right? It says find the slope. So that you have to solve for y. So the first thing that you do is subtract 3x from both sides. If you subtract 3x on both sides, that means this cancels. You have 6y. You're going to start to get the y alone. I'm going to put the negative 3x first and then the 18 second. You don't have to. That's just the way I do it. Then to get the y alone, you would divide by 6. You get y equals negative 3 over 6 is negative 1/2 x. Keep the fraction. Keep the fraction. Right? And then 18 divided by 6, that goes in evenly. That goes in 3 times. So we have an m of negative 1/2. And we have a b of 3. And that answers the question of what they wanted. They wanted the slope and the y-intercept. See how it looks a lot different from when we started because it wasn't in that format. So y equals mx plus b is what it needs to be. If a line contains a point, the points listed, find the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So this is a little bit difficult. So we have y equals mx plus b. This is the equation of the line. You need 2 things. You need the m and you need the b. Now, if the x is 0, if there's an x of 0, that means if there is an x value of 0, the other number, the y value, is the y-intercept. All right? Is there an x value of 0? That's the issue. If there isn't, that means you have to find what the y-intercept is. I am not going to do that first. I'm going to figure out the slope first. So I know that I could basically figure out the slope just by picking 2 points. I'm going to pick this one as x1 and y1. This one is x2 and y2. I would never pick negatives if there are positives somewhere else in the line. So these are positive, and it's very easy to figure out when they're positives. So the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The slope formula is, I'm going to put the minus signs in, 10 minus 8 and 3 minus 1. Now, I know that's 2 over 2, but if you put that in the calculator, 2 over 2 should be equal to 1. 10 minus 8, 3 minus 1. Very easy. Slope is 1. So, I'm a little bit confused because I can't get the y-intercept. So the slope is 1. I still need the y-intercept. I don't have a 0 as the x value. So, and it's very difficult to work back, and it's in between here somewhere. So like you could see what you might be able to see if you like patterns, what the 0 would be, and what the other number would be. But if you don't, there are two ways to do this. So the number one way that we've been showing everybody is to use y equals mx plus b. And we're just going to pick a random point, and I'm going to pick, again, all positives, 1 and 8. So the y is 8. I'm going to put that in. The m I have is 1. The x is 1 plus b. We're looking for the b. Once we solve for the b, then everything is good. We have the equation of the line. So we have 8 equals 1 times 1 is 1 plus b. Then you're subtracting 1 on both sides. And now b would be 7. If b is 7, then we have the equation of the line. The second way that you could possibly do this, because right now it's y equals x, 1x plus 7. That's the equation of the line. All right, so I'm going to highlight that. That is the equation of the line. If you used y equals mx plus b, that's the way to go ahead about that and do it. The second way is to use the point slope formula, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We are not giving you that formula. You just have to know it. All right, so we already have x1 and y1 labeled. So y stays y. y1 is 8. The slope is 1. The x stays x minus 1 as x1. So once you solve this, I like this formula a lot, because once you solve it, that's the equation of the line. You don't have to substitute back in, but either way, whatever way that you feel more comfortable with, that's what you use. Equals, and then this is 1 times x, which is 1x, and then 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And then you add the 8 on both sides. And you see what I'm saying? This is finished now. This cancels, and you have y equals x plus 7. And you see that on both sides, you do have the same equation. It doesn't matter which one you use. Again, whatever you feel more comfortable with. All right, and that's it. Number 22, the graph of the models the cost of holding a banquet in a tea room. Who cares? Find the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. That slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And the m is what you need. The b is what you need. So we're just going to go for the y-intercept first. Here's the y-intercept right here. It is 150. I'm going to put that down first. The slope is a rise over run. So I'm just going to go and use this point and this point that I made right here. I'm going to go to the right and up. So right and up, just make sure this is 1. And then this is not 1 here. This is 50, 60, 70, 80. This is 30. So this is 30 over 1. And m is 30. So find the equation of the line. It is y equals 30x plus 150. And that's it. For unit 4 and the last unit right here that we're going to be covering on this review sheet, write a relation that is a function. A relation is a set of all points. Just remember, every time that you put a relation together, you have to try to put them in braces and parentheses. My braces set up, I'm going to start with 0, 2, then 1, 3, then 2, 4, and then maybe 3, 5. All right, and that is a function because a function, every x has its own y. And just like I said, every x has its own y. If the x repeats and goes to a different y, it's not a function. So we're going to write a relation on the right-hand side that is not a function. My brace is set up, and I'm going to start with the same 0, 2. And then I'm going to go to 1, 3. And then I'm going to go to 1, 5. And I'm going to go to 2, 6. This is not a function, and it is not a function because, again, this is the problem with this one that makes it not a function. You see this 1 and this 1? They repeat. The x repeats and goes to two different y's. So that means this is not a function. 1, if it's like, think about if 1 was like a person, or one's a person, and we ask that person, what's your favorite number? Your favorite number is 3. Okay, so, and then we go back to that same person, 1, and we ask 1, what's your favorite number? Now that person should say 3. 1 should say 3. And 1 says 5. That doesn't make sense. You can't pick two different numbers. That x can't have two different numbers assigned to it. So that's the reason why it is not a function. So if more than one output value, which is the y, output is the y, is associated with a single input value, which is the x, it is not a function. So just remember, if they say input, that's your x. Output is the y. Each input has to have its own output, right? They could have the same output, but they can't have, the one input can't have two outputs, two different outputs. All right, so that's the whole thing. Every x value does not have its own value for the second relation. So number 24, the table below represents the total cost of the function. What is the rate of change? They're asking you what the slope is. What's the initial value? They're asking you what the y-intercept is. And they want the rate of change and the initial value. Let's go ahead and get the rate of change. This is x1, this is y1. This is x2, this is y2. The rate of change is always y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. y2 is 15 minus 10, and 3 minus 2 is right here. So m equals 5 over 1 is 5. The initial value is when x is 0. X equals 0? No. So we're kind of like a little bit lost here, but I could kind of figure it out. So if this goes up by 1, going back, that would be minus 1. So that's 1. And then going back again, that would be 0. So while the x increases by 1, the y increases by 5. Then you could go back by 5, that's minus 5 from 10, and then go back to 5 again, and that's 0. So what's the initial value? 0. What's the b? 0. The equation of this line, if they ask it, is y equals 5x. This is a direct variation. That's not the only way to do that. To get the y-intercept, remember, you could use the y equals mx plus b and put that out, but I thought this was easier to work back to where x is 0. If you could work back to where x is 0, then you could figure out the y-intercept. All right, the last question, identify if the relation is a function or not a function. So just remember, you're looking at the x's first. X goes to 1. Sorry, 1 goes to 2. Picks 2 is their favorite number. 2 goes to 3. 3 goes to 4. Each x doesn't repeat. That means it is a function. X does not repeat. Taking a look at the x's, do they repeat? No, they don't. That means it's a function. You don't even have to look at the y's. Take a look at the x's. They do not repeat. This is a function. And one last time, look at the x's. They do repeat. So 1 goes to 4. 1 goes to 5. You can't have two favorite numbers. All right, 1 is attached to 4. 4 is attached to 1. 5 can't be attached to 1. All right, so this is not a function. Every x must have its own y, and if it doesn't, that means that the x is attached to two output values, and that cannot be, right? So 1 can't be going to 4, and 1 can't be going to 5 at the same time. If you removed one of them, then it would be a function. But you notice that 2 goes to 6, and then 2 also goes to 6 again? Well, that's allowed. Remember, like you could have the 2 pick 6 as a favorite number. Then if I go back to 2 and ask 2, what's your favorite number? And it says 6 again, that's allowed. Can't say another number. So if 2 picks another number, then it would be not a function. But this is not a function because of 1 and 4, 1 and 5. All right, those are the 2 points that make it not a function. All right, and that's it. We are finished with the review sheet. I hope that helped. Thank you for watching.